Hello.
Hi.
We decided to talk about Ukrainian book history and about Ukrainian history in general and about Ukrainian books in general. So we decided that we need to spotlight, I guess, the Ukrainian bookish history and Ukrainian books, at least for some time. And we started mostly did it on Instagram and Facebook because these are our main outlets, and we didn't have any publications on YouTube since the 23rd of February, and which is also sort of a strange coincidence because we posted a talk that we recorded in Moscow last August, where we talked about Russian artist books, and many of these artist books were quite anti-militaristic and liberal and very peaceful in their message. And then next day, the invasion started. So it was really strange to us. And yeah, we'll share with you some of the posts we shared on Instagram and just talk about the objects. So this was the first thing we posted, and this isn't an old manuscript, an old book. This isn't an old book. That's a replica of an old book of 450-year-old Peresopnytsia Gospel. And that's a book that has been used for many times by during the inauguration of the Ukrainian presidents. I don't know. The modern world is sort of relating on memes, and then there is this meme on the internet showing like the political arena of modern Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine in the past 20 years, and presidents are changing every few years in Ukraine because that's the democratic process of things. And in Russia and Belarus, we have all the same two old guys who are sitting in the same spot, not moving. Well, in Russia, there was a placeholder for some time, but everybody knows what's really happening. So, but yeah, here is a symbol, one of the symbol of Ukrainian presidency and Ukrainian independence, I guess, in a way. And it's 450 years old, the gospel, and if you want, you can follow the link in the comments, and there is some additional description. It's very interestingly illuminated book, and it was made in 1956, or it was made in 1556, 1561. So in the 16th century, in the Monastery of the Holy Trinity in Iziaslav. It still exists. It's still held in the Vernadsky National Library in Ukraine. And presidents use a facsimile, which is on itself is a pretty magnificent work and a pretty exact copy of the original book. It's also interesting to see the facsimile as well, because oftentimes the copies are done just to give some understanding of the original objects, but sometimes they are beautiful objects of art and history on their own. We had a discussion of some facsimiles earlier on our podcast.
I would like to add that I didn't know this book was used as such an important symbol, but I did know about the book. It's an interesting document of the Ukrainian language itself. For those of our viewers who've never thought about it, Russian, Ukrainian, and Belarusian languages, all three of them appeared, formed out of a common ancestor at about the same time, around 500 years ago. And this book is a very important document of the very early developments of Old Ukrainian or Old Belarusian. It's often called Western Russian language, but you can't say it's Russian. They all come from the same root, and this Proto-Ukrainian, Proto-Belarusian language has one of its best attestations in here. So it is an important document, linguistic document, as well as an important object.
And on the other side, while I was searching for, and yeah, by the way, here is President Zelensky during his inauguration ceremony with this gospel, and the second book is, as far as I think it's the Constitution of Ukraine. So the other two books used during the ceremony. But while I was searching for illustrations of the Peresopnytsia Gospel, Peresopnytsia Evangelion, I read some comments on Russian social media. And unfortunately, not once and not twice, I saw Russian people teaching Ukrainians about the validity of their language, and discussing the book that proves the common root and how you call it, further independent forming of three languages. Still, there are people who try to diminish this history and to prove something, I don't know what. So it's one of the roots of the modern conflict as well, which is really painful to see. And yeah, but it is what it is.
It's important to understand that Ukraine, when we say Ukrainian, Belarusian, and Russian languages, we mean spoken languages. Now, those are very closely related. On the other hand, if you look at the literary languages of the three countries, they are very different, and they also all formed at the same time and much later than the spoken languages. They all formed in the 19th century, and if Russian literary language is a conglomerate of Russian and Church Slavonic, which is basically ancient Bulgarian language. And it was constructed by, say, Pushkin and a generation earlier, Zhukovsky. On the other hand, Ukrainian literary language is strongly influenced by Polish language, Old Polish language. So if you hear how people speak, it's easier for us to understand than as Russian speakers than printed word, because there are many more influences from other languages have accumulated.
Yep, that's true. And here is another object we decided to share. It's a manuscript, and it's called the Kiev Psalter. And it's a manuscript from 1397, and I guess it's one of the most famous Slavic illuminated manuscripts. Pavel would, I guess, add some thoughts on that. And I had a bit of a discussion in this post. And by the way, currently this manuscript is in a library, in National Library collection in St. Petersburg. So it's in Russia because it was bought out from Polish owners by Russian Count Sheremetyev, Sergei Sheremetyev in the 19th century. So currently this manuscript is in Russia. Anyway, it's a great part of the Ukrainian history, and so I had a discussion about the name of this manuscript. It's also called Spiridon Psalter, but anyway, the one of the most common names is the Kiev Psalter, and there are two ways to spell Kiev in modern language. There is one spelling that is more Sovietic, and it's Kiev, and there is standard modern Ukrainian way to spell Kiev, and it's Kyiv. And in all, I guess, all international documents currently, the second spelling is used. But still, if you look, if you search for manuscripts and objects like this, oftentimes you will see the old spelling used, because and that's the sort of standardized and used by many scientists and researchers names of the objects, and well, they stay the same as they were. If they change in the future, we'll see. But that was the reason we used this name, and we had a discussion on that topic on our Instagram, and it's another topic that's well, I'm sure will be discussed.
I also saw calls for using the third spelling of the city, the one that references the Ukrainian spelling of it, with I with two dots.
Yeah. Okay.
So then, which is basically Yi, so Kiev. So K-I with two dots V. You can find that online nowadays too. I'll talk a bit more about this book. I have a few more images. But I think already you can see that it looks both like Byzantine examples and Russian examples. It's one of the most wonderfully illuminated books of the period in all of the Byzantine world period.
Yeah. So we had 6 posts in total. Here's the third one, and this is the oldest dated Slavic Tetraevangelion. Yeah. So 4 books of the Gospel. It's dated to 1144. So approximately the same time Moscow was first mentioned.
Yeah. No manuscripts produced at that time in Moscow.
In Moscow, yeah, because I was taught history on Instagram by a Russian bookbinder from St. Petersburg, and he tried to explain me some things about Rus, about Russians, about Ukrainians, about the language, about everything else, and well. In Kiev, they've been producing manuscripts for quite some time before they started, well, before Moscow existed in the first place, and before they started doing anything cultural in Moscow.
Yeah, and in this particular case, it was a very westernized kingdom. It wasn't a part of centralized Kievan Rus. I mean, it was part of this sphere, but Halych-Volynsk kingdom, the rulers were intermarried with all the European royalty. Yeah.
Here in France, they remember some interesting examples of Russian, how you call it, Kniginya, Königin.
Queen. They call her Queen Anne.
Okay.
We talked about a book that may have belonged to her, and about a document that definitely has her signature from about this time, from the 12th century. Yeah.
And we also it was one of the previous live streams where we also talked about Glagolitic scripts as well, and there will be a book in this carousel just a bit later with Glagolitic script, and so this book was written in or attributed to have been written in the kingdom of Galicia, Volhynia, Галицко-Волынское княжество, and so Halych, the Ukrainian name of the place is Halych, and well, it's in the Ukrainian territory, and that's another amazing object, and
this object spent all or almost all of its life in Ukraine. So for well over 800 years, it's been there.
Yeah. That's something quite modern, and you probably should. I wouldn't be able to open the video on a full screen right now, unfortunately, but it's one of the artist books I've seen some time ago. Artist book from a Ukrainian calligrapher, and that's a bit of a step from the far past to current days, and we will post some more artist books of Ukrainian artists on our Instagram in the upcoming days. So I guess stay tuned. And there are some beautiful objects and some really touching and inspiring and strange objects there. This book is one of the most amazing objects I guess I saw on that exhibition where I made the video. And it was made by calligrapher Dada Aleksandrova. So here is Glagolitic script I was talking about, and as we discussed with Pavel earlier on one of our earlier live streams, we can't read it. So it's so far from Cyrillics that it's not only that Europeans can't read it. Well, I mean Europeans using Latin alphabets, but also Europeans reading Cyrillic alphabets can't read it. Where it was, you told that in one of the countries, in one of the Balkan
in Croatia.
In Croatia, they still try to keep up some relevance of.
Yes, there is a couple of newspapers and a website. I even found something like a forum that that was on like 10 years ago. So who knows? Maybe they'll found Wikipedia on Glagolitic. That would be a blast. By the way, have you noticed something strange about this particular display?
Yeah, there are stylus.
Yeah.
Which are stylus for the wax tables, I guess.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those because it has the other side for deleting what you've written.
For flattening the surface. Yeah, I was surprised as well, but
this particular image is not of the original. It's a copy from a museum, from a book museum. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's facsimile. Here is the image of the original one. You can find it digitized, all pages digitized, and so this object is called the Kiev Missal or Kiev Glagolitic Folios, because well, it's written in Glagolitic, in the Glagolitic script, and it's 1,000 years old.
It depends on who you ask, but there is no date, and there is also no consensus. But the more popular opinion dates it to the second half of the 10th century. If correct, that would make it the oldest Glagolitic manuscript in existence. We know a bit about where it was made. I'm no linguist, but even at the time, difference between Slavic dialects, they were not languages just yet, was strong enough to differentiate texts from, say, Kievan Rus, from the Balkans, and from Moravia, or modern-day Czech Republic, where this probably comes from, and where Glagolitic script was first used en masse. The script was developed in Turkey by two modern-day Turkey, and obviously not far from Constantinople, by two monks, or at least one of them, who was sent to proselytize to Moravia. They weren't very successful, but some documents were made, and this is almost certainly one of them.
And once again, a beautiful object. It's just, I don't know how you can go by these books and don't have any feelings about them. Thank you all for staying with us. See you next time on our YouTube channel and Facebook page. And we will definitely talk more about the Ukrainian culture and Ukrainian books in the future. Thank you.